I have just come out of the most powerful live stream that I have ever done. So much so that I'm sweating and hot and just like, that was absolute potent power. And it's safe to say that Hannah has arrived. It was not the first live stream, it was the first Haven Healing live stream in the Reality Awareness Haven. And it was so potent that on Sunday morning, Australian Eastern Standard Time, I'll put a post out for it. I'm actually going to do a public one of these. What we just did in the Haven Healing live stream blew me away. I knew the Haven, the Reality Awareness Haven, was something else, but that level of healing just has blown everything out of the water. So first of all, if you need healing in some way, shape or form, and you want to get a taste of what the Haven is like, on Sunday morning, Australian Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to go live on this page and you can experience it. That was next level. Everybody was crying on that call, let's just say at the end. That's the level of potency that came through. I'm going to talk about on this live stream, aloneness, cut off from family, walked all over and then walked away from. Betrayal is, these things are the most cutthroat, heartbreak pain in the world and will send someone down into the spiraling darkness to never return. These pains are huge and they're very present right now, and I really want to talk to them and speak to this. So if you're going through this, or if you know somebody going through this, this is for you. Let me share this and I'll see what wants to come through about this as well. Oh, I see all your comments coming up. I can't see them on the screen for some reason. All right, I'm going to share this live stream and then I'm going to talk about this because this is big. Yeah, this is big. Hopefully I share this correctly. Oh, still buzzing from that live stream in there. It's just, I'm not buzzing, I'm just like in awe, and it's just like, okay. I knew it was potent. I'm still covered in goosebumps from it because it's just so huge. So huge. All right, nearly there. One more share and I'll be present with you with this. Okay. Oh, it was so deep, Destiny. I know, right? Destiny was just in the Haven with us. Next level. Just, yeah, I'm still processing it. I was going to come straight on and do a live stream of it, but I was like, I just need to let that like process because that was so big. And I wanted to talk about this topic anyway. Aloneness, cut off from family, walked all over and then walked away from. Betrayal is the most cutthroat heartbreak pain in the world. Okay, so let me just bring up these comments here. So hello everybody, welcome. Yeah, we're so deep. We're so deep. Okay. So let's talk about this cutthroat, aloneness, cut off from family, deep heartbreak. It's the biggest thing ever. Okay, so I don't really know where I'm wanting to even start with talking about it because it's all quite big. And I guess, you know, like, and I think I was talking about it on the live stream yesterday actually with the psychic readings, and you know, like when we feel that excruciating pain, and actually what I wanted to talk about is that there's different forms of aloneness, right? And I was writing about this in my book yesterday, and then I saw people posting about it, and I'm like, yeah, it's really in the ethers right now. So Dan says nobody wants to be around me lately, and I'm like, why is that? A couple of things. So what's just coming to mind with that, Dan, is like sometimes when nobody wants to be around us is because we're actually feeling like we're internally needy, and that neediness is actually what pushes people away and puts people off. It's an energy that we subconsciously put out, if you may. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I need to be around people. I need to feel validated, and I want to hang out with you, and please, I can do everything for you, and I can help you with whatever you need, like, you know, and it's our own like needing validation and the internal like wanting to like be accepted and validated and needed to, you know, and that puts people off. They're like, oof. Right? So I would look at quote unquote validating yourself or meeting your own needs of like being alone. Because when we're also that, we're scared to be alone. Why? Because it brings up stuff. Being alone forces us to face things in our reality that we don't want to face. It forces us to face things that we have been putting off and we have buried. And so we will do everything in our power to not be alone. Keeping busy, addictions, you know, socializing nonstop, avoiding responsibilities of our reality, anything to stop the feelings of what's going to come up if I actually was alone for a minute. You usually be scrolling on your phone like before sleep, and you have trouble going to sleep because you don't want to go to sleep, because when we go to sleep, feelings come up. We'll stay up and push past all the bedtimes. It's avoidance, yeah? Leanne says, yes, it's hurtful, especially when things are coming up for you to heal and they don't understand. They think you're holding a grudge. Yeah, do you want to expand on that a little bit more? So, because when you say, especially when things are coming up for you to heal and they don't understand, they think you're holding a grudge. So do you mean like you're going to them wanting to communicate and talk about the problem or the issue and they don't want to deal with it? Like, is that what you mean? Or like, do they then turn around and say to you, oh, well, you just need to get over it and you're holding a grudge? Like, is that what's going on there? And so like this cutoff from family, and this is what I was talking about on the live stream yesterday, the cutoff from family is the most excruciating pain that you will ever feel. Now, whether it was your choice, their choice, some other choice that happened, you know, some other situation that happened in there, it's not like it is one of the hardest things to heal. Yeah. I want to say it's one of the hardest things to heal. So Leanne says, yes, a bit of both. Karen says, understand being on my own for a while. I think is what you meant. Yes, don't want to avoid letting go of holding a grudge doesn't work. What do you mean by that? Do you want to expand on that a little bit? So you say letting go of a grudge doesn't work. So Patrick says, I feel you. I've been there and still am. It can be scary to look at yourself in the eyes and admit your part in the devastation. If you can't fix or change it, it will get easier with time. Yeah, and so that's the thing as well, right? Okay, so I'm just going to talk to Leanne's comment for a second. So you said, like, yes, a bit of both. So you're going to your family wanting to resolve situations, communicate about the issue, and they're just like, I'll just get over it. Like, what are you talking about? Right? So a couple of things there. Well, this is where, like, number one, you've tried it, okay? Number two, that doesn't work. Obviously, they're not, there's a point where it's like you can communicate some things and some things you just need to work on through yourself. Now, that does not mean accepting abuse or put downs or anything like that, okay? That's not where we're coming from. But if it's something that you're quote unquote stuck on and you've done what you can to resolve it with the person and they're not interested, then it's up to you to work on it in yourself. Now, sometimes that can be really hard. However, the biggest part about letting go of something is about grieving the fact, like grieving the situation. So, feeling the pain and the hurt of what happened. And sometimes when we're wanting to avoid like aloneness, right, and we're keeping busy, is because that pain is excruciating of what they did to us, okay? And it's okay to blame someone when you're in the healing process of grieving within yourself. So I personally wouldn't go and, well, you did this to me, okay? Sometimes we need to do that in like a domestic violence situation. It's not okay for you to do that. We go and get protection orders, blah, 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 okay? Like that's a boundary, no. But when we're in a healing, grieving process, some people was like, oh, well, I just need to forgive them and I just need to I forgive you, but you're like soothing underneath and you bury all that hurt and pain and resentment and you end up being sick all the time, okay? Because it's actually that's making you sick, okay? The way to heal it is to feel it. Now, when you are healing it to feel it, okay, and this is in your own bedroom, on your bed, whatever you're doing, like wherever your healing space is with your therapist or whatever, when you're in those spaces, it's okay to blame them. Like, you really hurt me, okay? And actually feeling the hurt and blaming, it's called draining the thread, okay? So we're blaming them in a sense of, it's okay to sit there on your bed grieving like you really fucking hurt me and like let those feelings come out. I do not recommend going to that person and saying that, okay? It's just cause for an argument. It's pointless, okay? Again, it's not about accepting abuse, okay? Please know where I'm coming from when I talk about this, but it's so important that you allow those feelings to come out. You really hurt me. You did this. You. Let the blame come out. Let it come out, because otherwise it'll sit there and it will fester and you will get fucking sick. Now, a lot of people have a lot of chest stuff going on. Sure, there's the V going on, but do you know what it is? It's the unfelt grief that the collective has been suppressing all this time. That needs to come out, okay? Whether you've been cut off from family, betrayed, walked all over, all of that sort of thing. If you do not feel the hurt and pain, you will never let it go. You will never move on, and you'll attract similar situations because this is trying to heal. It's like, hello, are you going to wake up? I'm trying to show you that this is still sitting here in your energy field. That's why you keep attracting the same situations, right? Yeah? Okay, so when Patrick says, I've been there and still am, it can be scary to look at yourself in the eyes and admit your part in the devastation. Okay, and when you say if you can't fix it or change it, it will get easier with time. Okay, I don't believe that. Nothing gets easier with time. Time does not heal all wounds, okay? Things get easy with time if you've dealt with the emotions from that part. Otherwise, it's going to be sitting there under the surface and you're like, yeah, I'm fine. And then you're going to bed and crying your eyes out while you're falling asleep. You're not fine, okay? You're putting on the happy face, and that's the cause for depression, okay? Doesn't work. The thing that I want to say to that is when you say it's scary to look yourself in the eyes and admit your part in the devastation, this is huge. And for somebody to do that, that is growth. And that is where the change comes in. And it's scary. And it's scary because we have to feel the hurt. What was our part in it? What was our, part in it? What was our devastation in it? This always takes two to tango. And if we don't admit that and look at ourselves and our part in that, we will never have a different relationship ever in the future, or a relationship ever, right? When we look at, and you say, admit your part in the devastation, there will be feelings of remorse, regret. You'll be constantly playing things out in your mind, fuck, I wish I did that. If I only did that, then this wouldn't have happened, and then this wouldn't have happened. And then, and that's when we go back to relationships, because we're but maybe if I try this time and do this differently, then it'll work. It was me. I fucked up. I was the one it was my fault. I'm so sorry. Can we try again? And then the same fucking shit happens again. What's so important to understand is that when we are in that admitting the devastation and our part in it, is that we will want to run back and try and fix it, and that sometimes happens, right? And sometimes you get back together and you both own your shit and it's amazing. But sometimes the same shit happens again, okay? Because it takes two to tango, and both people have to be willing to work on the relationship, okay? And when we can actually like own your part in the devastation, and I love that you brought this up, Patrick, like it's so important to understand that you will feel remorse, regret, like you'll just be like feeling like so much shame, and you're like, I can't believe I did that. And honestly, like you will want to run back to the relationship, and it's like, let that play out in your mind, but don't go and do it, okay? Because what this part of admitting the part of your devastation and the remorse and the regret and everything that you're feeling is actually part of the grief cycle. It's actually part of the healing, right? Grief, the grief, how do we let go of a relationship? We grieve it. And in the grief, there's all these different stages, and it's not a straight line. We'll be jumping over here, and then we're back to the anger, and then the grief and the sadness, and then the loss, and then the regret and the remorse, and like, oh my God, if I just did this, and hang on a sec, I got the answer, let me try again, please. And then I just can't try again. Because it's gone. And you'll be jumping, and you'll feel like a fucking crazy person. This is healing. It is messy, it is raw, it is a fucking mess, and it is totally acceptable. But society is taught that it's not. And society is taught that there's something wrong with you if you're grieving, and all over the fucking place, like I just explained and demonstrated. Here's a pill, here's another pill. You need to see a psych. Oh, there's something wrong with you. Do you know when I was in hospital and getting all this finger and the fucking dog stitches and all this stuff? I was like on the hospital bed thing while the woman's like, the nurse is like taking the stitches out of my leg. I was bawling my fucking eyes out. Like when I first got attacked by the dogs and taken to emergency, I cry, okay? Because I know how healing it is, okay? I know how to heal via crying, okay? And so I cry a lot to heal things. That's the purpose. I let myself cry, okay? So in the ambulance, in the hospital, like in emergency, like tears were running down my face. And I had so many staff coming up to me like, are you okay? Oh, you need to speak to someone. Oh, like, you okay? And then I was like, oh, I'm crying to heal. Like in myself, I knew what I was doing, right? And then like, you know, all this stuff, like they knew I wasn't okay, but just what they were saying to me. And I was like, okay, Hannah, all right, fine. They don't fucking get it. Okay, you know, in myself. And like I needed to go to the bathroom. So, you know, they helped me hobble to the bathroom, whatever. And in the toilet, like, I'm just like, okay, Hannah, just, you can cry later. We're just not going to cry. I'm just going to deal with it in this fucking space because they don't get the grief, okay? In a fucking hospital, you should be grieving. But anyway, let's just zip it up, okay? And do you know what happened? When I went back out to the, you know, emergency table thing, like the chair or whatever, I'm waiting to be stitched up and all the shit, I started feeling nauseous. And I was like, fuck, I'm gonna vomit. And I'm like I'm sitting there and I'm just like, fuck. And it dawned on me, I'm like, oh, because I'm holding in my tears. I'm like, well, I would rather cry my fucking eyes out and everyone look at me weird and think there's something wrong with me than be vomiting my fucking ring up on top of dealing with this right now. So fuck off, everybody. I'm going to be bawling my eyes out, crying, and if you don't get it, I don't fucking care. Like it, and I guess I'm sharing that for you guys to understand that when we suppress emotion, we get physically sick. Like I literally was going to throw up. And I was like, and it was such a like turning point and lesson. Like I'm a healer. I've done this since 2005. Okay. I've got a lot of experience under my belt, a lot of wisdom. I've been through a lot of experiences. I've helped a lot of fucking clients. And for me to experience the suppression of emotion, because I don't do that, okay? But in that hospital environment, I was like, okay, better zip it up. And then I was going to vomit. I was like, no fucking way. And it's like, and it was so, like, it's like I had to be shown that. Do you know what I mean? Like, for Spirit to show me so I could understand people who are also sick because they're suppressing emotion. Like, I've already known that. But the simple, like, me holding back grief and I started feeling nauseous, I was like, fuck, man, like, this is so real. Like, I knew it was real, but do you know what I mean? And I'm sharing this so deeply to understand that if you are physically sick, it is because you need to fucking cry. And if everybody cried on this planet, we wouldn't have sickness. Full stop. And this is what I'm so passionate about, in helping people understand that their illness comes from suppressed emotions on such a deep layered scale, and that every emotion that we suppress and every situation in our life, right back through childhood and even beyond to past life, that when we suppress it and we suppress it again, it's like a scar tissue and a scar tissue and a scar tissue, and that becomes a big fucking tumor, and then people wonder why they've got cancer and all these fucking things. Okay, now there is a fine line of suppression, okay, and in my book I'm going to very distinctly detail this because I could write a book about it because it is so in depth, okay, but this is huge in understanding, and I can't stress enough the power in letting yourself feel all emotions and the grief safely, okay. If you're angry, go to a boxing class, push against a door frame in your house to get anger out quietly. The door frames are really strong, you're like, push all your weight into it, and I guarantee under there somewhere tears will want to come out. Under all anger is sadness, and how we heal is by feeling our emotions consciously, powerfully, safely, and knowing that you're safe to heal, to feel. Yeah, that obviously needed to come out. Okay. All right, checking these comments. By the way, guys, if you need help with this, my 21-day shifter program is open. The link is in the title of this live stream. It's 21 days where you're in my space and I'm holding you. Yeah, if you felt this of what I'm talking about, this is what we can heal together. Yeah, deeply, powerfully, anything that's in there. Okay, this is my gift. I help you shift stuff you can't understand, you can't shift, you feel lost, you feel like shit. This is what I do. Okay, so 21-day shifter program is where we're on Telegram or WhatsApp for 21 days, back and forth, text message, voice message. If you've had a voice message from me on Messenger or anything before, or any sort of you can feel what space I hold for you. In 21 days of it, it's potent, and we shift so much stuff that you haven't been able to shift, stuff that you haven't never told anyone before. This is what this is for. So my 21-day shifter program is open. Also, if you just want a psychic reading, they're available too. In the 21-day shifter program, we do psychic readings. We jump on a phone, video call, whatever's required in that space. That's what we do. Also, I've just come out of a live stream from the Reality Awareness Haven, and it has set me on fire. And I knew the Haven was big, but what we just went in and shifted and it's blowing my mind. It's blown my mind so much that on Sunday morning, Australian Eastern Standard Time, I'll put a post out so you can turn on notifications, save it in your calendar. It'll be Saturday evening for other people on the other side of the world. For you guys on the other side of the world, I should say. So I'll set the time so you guys know, so you can make sure you're there. I'm going to give you a demonstration. I'm going to literally do a Haven live stream, but publicly. Because what we just went through and delved into that space, I'm blown away from it. For real. So that's coming up. All right, let me go through these comments here. So Karen says, letting go of what life has dealt you, and you are aware of old friendships that didn't. Forgiving yourself and other people. Yes. So as I say, forgiveness is so important that I'm writing a book about it. Okay. Trust me, there's lots of books on their way. That's all I've been doing with my time, my spare time. I'm writing books. Lots of books at the same time because they're all coming out at the same time. It's just what I do. So, letting go only happens when we feel what I just talked about. Those emotions. We cannot let go of something until we have felt the pain, the hurt, the sadness, the anger, the blame of that situation. We will not let go. We will be stuck in it. We'll be walking around lost. We won't realize that we're still in relationship with them because we are. We won't be able to find another relationship. Everything will block us from moving or finding another relationship or a job, or this isn't happening, or this is why? Because you fucking still haven't felt those emotions. That's the block, guys. Let's go back here for a minute, okay? I know you don't want to, but this is where it's at. Yeah? Okay, so Dan says, I am hurt because my kids are still involved with my ex's kids. And it's creating a feeling like I just can't heal when it comes up. Can't stand someone getting the best of my ego. I am hurt because my kids are still involved with my ex's kids. So do you mean, I just need a bit more information. Are they still hanging out? They're still friends, basically, and you don't want them to be? Is that what I'm understanding correctly? And when you say my ex's kids, did she break up with you or you broke up with her? So Jenna says, it's definitely been layers and layers of grief, but yet the healing and learning of who you are and why, it's beautiful even through the hurt. Yeah, 100%. The growth is in that. Yeah, we find who we are under the scar layers. Because the scar layers have covered us like a cloak. And that's why a lot of people they're like, what would you like for dinner? And I'm like, I don't know, you choose. What would you like to do today? I don't know, you choose. Why? Because they don't fucking know. They don't know what they want to do with their life. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they want to eat. Why? Because they've been told what to do for their whole fucking life. Let alone the fact of like, it's all right, I'll choose for you. Like they've been controlled, or they've been like controlled in a relationship and they're suffocated and they've just done what they're told. Like we're taught that through school, by the way. We're indoctrinated via the schooling system for 18 years. 17, 18 years, whenever we graduate, 16, whatever. Get the point. 12 years in school, okay? Something like that. It's not them. It's societal conditioning that we're breaking out of that they don't want us to, hence the control on a bigger scale, which is a whole nother conversation we're not going to get into right now. Karen says, I've been hurting for a long time, being told, tied to, feeling. Yeah, we're being told tired. I think, being tired all the time, even if that's not what you're saying, you will be tired if you don't feel the grief. Now, when you say you've been hurting for a long time, we will hurt for a long time until we feel that at its depth. That may mean locking yourself in your bedroom for 3 days, well, in your house maybe, and like feeling that situation and the grief, and you will feel like you're dying in that grief. You will be on the bed, breaking heart, like it'll be like yesterday it happened, not 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, okay? If we don't feel the grief in the moment, it carries forward and it sits there, and we're always upset, we're always depressed, we'll snap at the drop of a hat or anything like that, right? Because it's sitting there waiting to explode. It's sitting there waiting to be felt, to heal. A lot of people don't know how to feel to heal because we're not taught that. Again, in society, we're taught that's not okay. Yeah? Bloodletting. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Dawn said, I lost my best friend who pulled away from me because she was holding on to resentment about being mad at me, but I had no idea why. When you say you lost your best friend, do you mean like the friendship broke, or did she commit suicide? Amen, I reckon, right? So true, we need to heal our own shit. Fucking oath we do. And the world's not ready for this level of consciousness until 2027. World. There will be a huge shift on a collective scale on this consciousness, on this level of understanding with grief and feelings and stuff. Until then, there's only still a few in the world. In 2027, there will be a massive consciousness shift. The world will then be ready for this level of consciousness. Then says, I've been working on myself, things have been coming up for me, and I sit with the emotions and let them go and forgive. I've told them my feelings are part of my spiritual healing. Yeah, and so, we can always tell them our feelings for sure. Like, hey, you hurt me when you spoke to me like that. Please don't do that again. Or whatever we're saying, right? But, and sometimes, like, they won't understand the depth of it. And that's us, like, saying our piece and then, not letting it happen again, of course. Again, this is where I'm like, abuse is not okay. And boundaries need to be set with that, etc. But then also, like, there's only so much people like that understand and comprehend, right? I want to say usually our family, but also other people in general who have hurt us, right? Hurt us. Jenna says, learning to forgive was a big one for me too young without understanding of the things that happened. Yeah, definitely. As children, that's why one of the biggest things we can do is feel our emotions to heal 100%, but then also like the inner child healing and healing our childhood stuff is huge. And a lot of people are clouded in their intuition, and this is what we work with a lot in the Trust Intuition Training School, is really working on, there's so many things we work on, but the healing from the emotional trauma and sometimes physical trauma from childhood is a big one. Because it's literally like imprinted on us energetically, and that's why we go out and we attract same situations until this changes. Yeah, it's always an inside job, but we need the right tools, skills, and understanding, and around the right people to heal the inside, to change the inside. Yeah. So Karen says, when you have children, yes, accept responsibility and don't be fooled. And some friends aren't really being true. Being naive, had years of therapy, too old. By the way, you're never too old. Yes, need to work on healing, letting everyone go. Yes, 100%. Dan said, if I stuff my feelings, I will get hives. There we go. There we go. See? This is the thing. When we don't feel our emotions, we get sick. Yes. 100%. We bring on sickness ourselves. Yes, exactly. 100%. 100%. There's a fine line between the diet and the foods we eat to the emotions we feel of health. 100%. Patrick says, create polarity to counter it by pouring some love into areas of you that you have no control over. Will also help with the feelings of being helpless at the stalemate. Yeah, that too. Yeah, and it's, you know, and when you say pour love into the parts of you that, you know, you have control over, of the helpless parts, like that's how we do it. That's shadow work. That is turning within and looking at the part of us that feels helpless, that can't do anything to change it. Like it's pure shadow work what we're talking about here, deep in the subconscious. 100%. 100%. Yes, Damon. Dan says, yes, I do not want them to see each other, but I inadvertently hear about her and she broke up with me. I don't want the kids to stay away from each other, but it's not helping me heal and let go. Okay. So what I would do if I was in that situation, or if you were my client, what I would recommend is there ways the kids can see each other without you being around? Now I know you got to like look after the kids, right? But for example, like, you know, is there drop-off points? Is there, you know, different changes in location where the kids can see each other? Like, for example, like, I don't know, just as an example, I don't know how it works, right? But if they're at a playground, so then you can be over there watching them, but you're not hearing them. Or other situations, you know, and the other thing would be is to use those times as an opportunity to heal. So when you say it's not helping me heal and let go, like 100%, but it's obviously bringing up feelings, and those feelings are the ones that need to be dealt with, because until they're dealt with, you will be in avoidance your whole life. Yeah? They are teenagers, yeah. So if they're talking to you about her or that sort of thing too, it's also putting boundaries in, like, that's great, you know, like, you know, but I'd appreciate if just at this time you wouldn't tell me things, but I'd love to see you. I love seeing you. Like, let's talk about you. How's school going? How's this? Like, take the conversation off her in a way too, you know, certain boundaries with that. That's what I would recommend. So Dan says, I feel like I should not feel like that, but I do. And the reason that I feel like I should not feel like that, but I do, is because you haven't grieved the loss of the relationship fully. That's all that is. Yeah. Patrick says, in empathy, if I close my eyes and think of your hurt, I will channel that sadness and tears flow from my end. As that energy release, I am like a conduit. Okay, that's great, but I didn't ask you to do that. I'm wondering if you're doing that for me or someone else. Okay. So just going back to Dawn here. So she said, I lost my best friend who pulled away from me because she was holding on to resentment about being mad at me, but I had no idea why. So you said the friendship broke. She said she could no longer be friends, and I'm still grieving the loss of our relationship. Yeah, and that's hard because it sounds like I lost my best friend because she pulled away because she was holding on to resentment about being mad at me, but I had no idea why. That's hard. You know, and this is sort of the cutoff, like when we're like all of a sudden they're gone, like whether that's family, friend, lover, whatever, right? It's kind of like everything's normal, and then it's like, well, hang on a sec, what just happened? Like, what did I do? Couple of things with that. As a healer, as an ancient-blooded healer, as an empath, our gift is picking up other people's subconscious stuff. Now, she was holding on to resentment for you. Now, there's a few things there, right? You can be picking up her subconscious stuff and trying to unconsciously fix her. She doesn't want that. The other side of that is that, like, if you are living a better life than her, you're not trying to, but you're in a better position than her, that can cause resentment. If you're sharing all your wins with her and she's in a bad position, that can cause resentment. Like, and at the same time, like, it's not your fault, okay? I'm not saying that, but I'm just picking out these points. It's not your fault, okay? But there's also a point where, especially if she didn't communicate to you and talk about it, and then she just cut off the friendship, it's like, well, hello, like, you know, And so when you say like, I'm still grieving the loss of the friendship, I'm like, yeah, so take 3 days. I don't know, I talk about a 3-day cocoon. 3 days on your bed, you know, with the, I don't know, tissues or whatever you need. You know, and let yourself grieve it fully. You can even do like, you know, when I was cut off from my family, or when I chose to stop communicating with them, because every time I spoke to them, it was like, stop doing the psychic stuff, stop doing this, stop doing that. And I'm like, wow, okay, is that how you really thought about me this whole fucking time? Okay. And so when I slowed down communication and realized that if I didn't call, I wouldn't hear from them, that was also pretty cutthroat hard. I was like, okay. I did a ceremony, a releasing ceremony, and I bought some flowers and I went to the ocean and I picked off a petal every time I felt hurt from certain people and let it go in the ocean. And I was bawling my fucking eyes out. It was a hot summer's day and I was like busy down at the beach and I didn't fucking care. I was just throwing out these petals in the ocean. White roses, what I chose. And it was my way of releasing. It was my way, like, did it fix it overnight? Fuck no. That cutthroat, sort of cut off, like, realization of the truth is one of the hardest things you'll ever face. And that's where it's like, well, what was my part in it? Right? Sometimes that doesn't come straight away, but it's like, is that what you really thought about me? Like, this whole time? Like, that's probably the worst too, you know, when you turn around and people are like, wow, that's what you thought, like, why didn't you say anything? Or like, do you know what I mean? And that's the hardest. Yeah, it's the hardest. And then so maybe a ceremony or something like that can help. It can help with closure. Okay. That's why when we have funeral, like, you know, they're all closing places. Does it stop the grief? Hell no, but it's an act of closure. So definitely still grieve, let that come out 100%. But some sort of ceremony might be good. So even like if you've got something symbolic of your relationship, so even so like another way of closing off something is letting go ceremonies. These would be good for all of you guys on here if you're trying to let go of something, and it's like a grieving ceremony, right? So there's lots of different ways. So you can, you know, throw roses, flowers, petals, whatever into the ocean or a river. Even for me personally, if I was given jewelry in the past from relationships or whatever, I would go down to the ocean and like throw it in the ocean as a way of letting it go. I know it's pretty full on, but it was a way of letting go. And like I said, it doesn't stop the grief. It's a ceremony. It's a closing door space, right? Not closing the door on the grief, by the way. Also, like, you can either just get a rose or you know, a flower or whatever, and literally bury it. Like, you're literally burying, you know, like the situation, yeah. Or something that's symbolic of it. So for example, when I collected rocks on my travels, and then when I wanted to let go of the hurt and the pain of that situation, like, I didn't want those rocks in my house anymore. So I literally went out and property and dug a hole and buried it as a way of like, you know, it's done now, you know. So that's really powerful as well. Even writing a letter, like a handwritten letter, most powerful, can let out a lot of grief. Do not fucking send that letter. Okay. You can either safely burn it or throw it in your fire pit or your fire, you know, in your house, you know, the house fires or whatever. The fire things in the house. What the fuck are they called? You know what I'm talking about? If you've got an indoor fireplace, thank you. You know, you can let it go in a fireplace. Or also, you know, you can let it go in the fireplace, or you can put that letter, like bury that letter in the ground, same thing. Yeah. Or you can let the letters go in the ocean as well too. I have done that before too. But just do not send it. But very, very, very healing to be able to do that. Yeah. So that's what I'd recommend, something like that. Okay, Dan, so it sounds like there's a lot of stuff there. And so, you know, like saying about the pickup truck, the 10K owed, like all this sort of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be cleared. I would definitely work with someone like myself because otherwise you're not going to be able to let it go. You know, we're talking about grief, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, but there's this and the money and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And this is what happens when we really start to feel the grief. They're like, oh, but there's all this anger and resentment because you owe me this and I didn't want that and blah, blah. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, this needs to come out. And until you deal with that with a therapist or with someone like myself, right? Not all therapists can hold the space that someone like myself or the healers that I train in reality awareness. That's why I'm training healers in reality awareness for this purpose, because there is not enough people who understand the level and the depth that needs to be held for stuff to truly shift, and the depth of trauma and grief in all these places. So, you know, like I would definitely be working with somebody 100%, right? Because there's a lot there. Yeah. Leanne says, I love when I'm dealing with these things, you appear and go live at the right moment. Of course, of course. If you're an empath, you will absorb, but for your own survival, need to pass out. No, I don't really agree with that. I'm sorry. I don't really agree with that. That's why I train healers, because empaths absorb everything 100%, and they will pass out if they do not understand energetic boundaries, how to deal with this, how to be a fucking empath around other people, let alone on their devices, right? This is what we train in Trust Intuition Training School, because that is like the key thing, and why people are so fucked up and messed up, and I'm strained all the time, and I'm tired, and I feel everyone's energy, and I have to go in a cave and leave me alone. Like, no, we need to be able to function in society, and we need to understand whose energy is what, and where's this coming from, and why, and like, why am I letting this take me out all the time? Like, no, I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. Yeah. Oh, it's a bit of a pain in the neck, this whole situation, right, Dan? Dan just said that he will deal with it once he gets back to work, because he's dealing with his neck. It's pain in the fucking neck, right? Do you see where all this emotion's sitting? Fucking pain in the neck. Can't do anything about it. This is all about control as well, and the weight of the world on your shoulders, and what are you carrying? It's pain in the fucking neck. Okay. So Nicole says, hi Hannah, I'm the eldest of 4 siblings. My mother disowned 3 of us on Facebook for differing opinions to hers on tattoos. Would you believe? Oh, I know about that one too, right? She now has 4 grandchildren. I thought you were going to say she now has tattoos. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't help myself. I read your comment. I'm just going to turn this heater off because it's getting hot in here. I'm sorry, I just was like, okay, imagine the irony, like, oh, and now she has tattoos. Sorry, I was just rolling out of my mouth. Hilarious. Okay, just took my boots off. Good, getting hot. Okay. Sorry, this made me laugh. Okay, I'm gonna start again. Nicole. Not laughing at you, okay, or the situation, it's just like, that just rolled out of my mouth. Okay. So I am the eldest of 4 siblings. My mother disowned 3 of us on Facebook for differing opinions to hers on tattoos. Would you believe? It's been about 7 years. Ooh, timeline point. She now has 4 grandchildren she doesn't know, and people remind us we aren't getting younger and we should forgive our mother. I feel if she disowned us, it should come from her, and I accept that she hasn't come forward. But I wonder how I would feel if something happened to her. Would I regret not extending my hand? My siblings seem fine not being in contact. Okay, so she disowned 3 of us. Is it the 3 eldest, and it's the youngest child that she still has contact with? And another question, she now has 4 grandchildren she doesn't know, and people remind us we aren't getting younger. Yeah, I'll just wait to hear back from her about that first, that question. Okay, she was a single mother, and I helped her a lot with my siblings. I wonder if her choice affects her. Family talk about her to us that like there's no divide. Okay, and so this is interesting, right? So obviously it's on your mind about extending your hand out, right? Obviously, there's a part of you that wants, is it reconciliation? Is that the right word? I'm just, you know, just double checking. Some words come to me and I'm like, yes, the restoration of friendly relations. Yes. There's a part of you that wants reconciliation. There's a part of you that is feeling it, thinking it. So it's obviously there for a reason. Now, I understand that when you say, I feel as she disowned us, it should come from her. And I accept that she hasn't come forward. But actually, it really fucking hurts you. It really hurts you still to this day that she disowned you. Especially when I helped her a lot with my siblings. As an eldest child, we usually do. It's just a helicopter. It's really loud. I don't know if you can hear that. And family talk, okay. When I hear somebody say, family talk to her about us, talk about her to us like there's no divide. I don't know the situation. I don't know your family. I don't know your mum. But when family talk to you, talk about her to you guys, talk about, yeah, you know what I mean? Talk to you about her like there's no divide. That helicopter's really, really low. Loud. This is so loud, right? Like I'm not outside live streaming. Alright, still wait for that to go for a minute. So when I hear somebody say, family talk to her about us like there's no divide, two things with that. Sometimes she's still talking about you guys like nothing happened. And sometimes, like even though it's been 7 years, sometimes that generation brushes things under the carpet. They don't want to deal with it. They don't think about it. They don't, like, do you know what I mean? Like it's just, no offense that generation, but it's how they've been raised. Like if we think back to when they were kids, what would have been brushed under the carpet? Like, do you know what I mean? And so, you know, like you have to remember they're in that upbringing. It's a long time ago, if that makes sense. Okay, so let me just read this comment here. So you say, no, the third child is still in contact as he was still living in her home. I feel that I do. You're right, but my partner doesn't want our 2 boys to know her as she's done this in the past. We moved away and I like not having her opinions in my decisions. It made my life free. But reconciliation is definitely on my mind as we will be heading back home for Christy. Okay, that's huge. I know, it was so loud. The helicopter ride was really fucking loud. Okay, so Nicole, okay, just because you want reconciliation, well, you know, your soul, you know, you do, you can feel it, right? You just want to be on your mind, okay? What am I trying to say, or how do I say this? So just because you want reconciliation doesn't mean you have to be all happy families and everyone has to get along right now. But what I would recommend, because your soul, there's something wanting that there, is what's to say you can't reach out in a phone call or text message or email, however you communicate, right? Like there's nothing stopping you from having that conversation. And you have to sort of be prepared for anything. She might blow up at you on the first phone call. She might act as though nothing's happened and that generation is sweeping under the, you know what I mean? Because ultimately, I think personally, this is my own personal stuff getting in the way, okay? As a mother, if I didn't hear from my child in 7 years, I would be like, you know, all that would matter is hearing from them. Unless I was the most rudest, fucking angriest bitch that held resentment on the fucking planet ever, and there's some of those around, they might not answer the phone. But 99% of mothers are longing to hear from their child, no matter what happened. Yeah? It's when you want to talk about what happened, that's when it might get a little bit uncomfortable. That's a generalized thing. Every situation is very, very different, right? So, you know, and so when you say, I like not having her opinions in in my decisions. It made my life free. So this is where going back into the relationship in whatever capacity is all about boundaries. Yeah. You know, there's going to be the uncomfortable conversations, like I want to meet the children or whatever, like down the track. So if you keep talking, right? But at the same time, like you don't have to jump into doing that. You know, you can put that off for as long as need be or ever or whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? So, you know, I think sometimes when we think about, you know, like having the communication, it has to go back to the way it was. But because especially with 7 years, like definitely a lot's changed. It's like, you know, what I would have in your mind is you're getting to know this person like a brand new stranger. And you do that with boundaries, and you do that with care, and you would do that with a lot of thinking about decisions before you say anything. You know, like if she wanted to meet the kids, for example, and you'd be like, okay, yeah, that would be awesome. Maybe, you know, soon we'll have to organize that at some point, or, you know, we'll have to think about that, or, you know, I have to talk to everybody. Like, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like have pre-worded things, you know, like it's sort of expected. It's like, yeah, that sounds amazing. It would be amazing to have a family gathering, you know, I think my heart would like crave that, but we're going to have to talk about everything first. We're going to have to talk to everyone. Of course everybody wants that. Of course everybody wants to meet everybody, like, you know, at a heart level, you know what I mean? But it's like, but you know, some things really did happen and it's been a long time and we really need to talk about this because I'm really fucking hurt from it. And there will be a conversation that's really uncomfortable and hurtful. It's going to bring out the pain. It's been 7 years. And you've had 2 kids, if I remember. Yeah, 2 boys. It's a big change. Yeah? So, you know, and if you're going to head back home with Chrissy, well, you know, especially it's kind of like, again, playing out those scenarios and having all the sort of things like, for example, if they were to meet each other, you know, because of what happened and your husband's not comfortable, etc. So your husband, you know, it's kind of like, okay, well, where would be good? Okay, at a playground, cool, because then we can leave. We're not stuck in somebody's house. She's not over at the apartment or whatever it is. You know, it's like, okay, we can leave. We can go out for coffee and then we can leave. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, have those escape routes if you need, right? It's really important to have those things if you may. Yeah? Nicole says she's a terrible communicator. I had always had feelings about how she would feel without her expressing it. She only ever wrote love mum or told us how proud of us she was in her birthday cards. And do you know what? Do you know what that is? That's you grieving that she's not the mum that you needed or wanted or she could ever give you. That's you grieving the fact that you will never have the mum that you needed and wanted. She loved you to the best of her capacity, and the real reconciliation comes with you feeling the grief that she will never be at the capacity of a mum that you need. And once you feel the depth of that grief, and fuck, it's cutthroat, right? When you feel that depth, might take a little bit, you will come to an acceptance and you understand, like on a feeling level, because we understand it, oh, she loved us to the best of our ability, but like, fuck. Right? Once you feel that depth, then there will be no undertone trigger feelings when you do meet up. Because underneath you're like, but you're not the mum that I fucking needed still. But you're like, it's everything's fine. Do you know what I mean? So when you feel that depth, then you can come to the relationship and accept her that she tells you she's proud of you in cards. And that's all she has the capacity. Because you have to remember how she was brought up. With those grandparents and those grandparents, like way back down the line, it was a very different world back then. It was getting the cane and fucking belts and shit in schools, for fuck's sake. Right? We just have guns these days, but you know, let's not talk about that. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry, that was bad. That was bad. That was really bad, but you understand where I'm trying to come from, okay? So that's what I would recommend there. Yeah? So Brenda says, my sisters and their kids don't accept me. My sisters and their kids. And have nothing to do with me, but have everything to do with my eldest daughter. Oh, that is hard. I know those feelings. Friendship fallout with my bestie sister-in-law, and she has added my daughter on socials. I respect the relationship with their kids and wouldn't dare to add them if we weren't. I wouldn't dare add them if we aren't talking. Hurts, but I've just learned to accept it. Yeah, that's pretty hard. That's also very hard. That's very cutthroat. Sounds like a lot of grief there too. It's so interesting this stuff goes on, right? A lot of people are in this, I'm just gonna call it cutthroat rejection. You know, and it's rejection, but it's not, rejection's not the right word. I'm just gonna call it cutthroat. It's very hurtful. Yeah. So a lot of grief there to feel too, yeah? So huge. So huge. All right, guys. I'm going to love you and leave you. Please know that on Sunday, Australian Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to do a live stream. If you would like true healing, I know we've sort of delved into a bit here. What I just did in the Reality Awareness Haven was on live stream just before this, was fucking next level. And it was so next level. I'm going to do exactly what I do. Well, obviously with different people and different situations and stuff will come out, right? But I'm going to do the Haven healing on a public live stream on Sunday morning, Australian Eastern Standard Time. So if you're on the other side of the world to Australia, it will be, it's like Saturday afternoon, evening, depending on where you are. I'll post the time so that you can save it in your phone, turn on notifications, put a reminder in your phone, set it in your calendar so that you can turn up live. Now, depending on how many people are willing to go that deep, you know, you will have to share a certain physical ailment or something that's going on in your life. And, you know, if we look at I really like looking at the physical. So if you've got a physical issue going on, but you have to be willing to bear all on the live stream, of course, and be vulnerable and open. Regardless, I'm really looking forward to doing it. If you would like one-on-one private work, that's my 21-day shifter program, or I do have a 12-month program as well, depending on how much you really want to shift. Yeah, so the 21-day shifter program, we can heal and shift so much. If you want to step into your life purpose and accelerate from past the trauma and past shifting from just healing, the 12-month accelerator is where it's at. So 21-day shifter program, the link is in the title of this live stream. You can find it on my page or on my website as well. So what time? I'm going to post the time. So I'm going to jump off this live stream and I'll tune into it. So I'll post it out on my email list as well, so you guys will know. If you're not sure, just come and check my page. I'll put it to the top of my page so you guys can jump on live. So that's coming up. 21-day shifter program. The Haven is open as well. It's a monthly membership where you can get the exact healing that you need, or go live in there every week, but you'll get a demonstration and a real life healing from it on Sunday. So Nicole says, thanks Hannah, it's definitely changed the way I raise my boys. Yeah, 100%. All right. I don't deny she did an amazing job with us. Being a single mom, it was her way or no way. Hard, yeah. So it ran 3 of us out of home early. Yeah, that's so huge. We spoke a lot about home and upbringing home in the Haven this morning. It was really fucking big. It was really big. It was really big. But I accepted the job was tough. Thank you. You're so very welcome. Thank you for sharing, Nicole. Leanne says, generational traumas that they never heal. That's what I accepted with my parents, but it doesn't make it easy. No, it doesn't mean it's easy. Fuck no. 100%. And that's that, you know, a lot of the healing that we're doing today is that. Like 100%. Of course, it goes to our soul healing, but it's a lot of bloodline healing that we're doing, yeah? Yes, you're so very welcome. Yes, I know I'm on my purpose. Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you. All right, I see you guys very soon. Love you and leave you.